talking about communication, especially in the workplace. So communication for me is a topic that is very underlooked. There's a lot of bad communication habits and skills going around, and I think that's an area that would be very good to address in this episode. So I like to start with a failure of mine, especially in the workplace. So back when I was training clients one-on-one, it was more like for like fitness, at this private gym. So one of these, the owner, and he was also a trainer. He would pass clients on to the other trainer, take them over, monitor their progress, make sure they hit their goals. So he passed on this client to me, right? I've never met this person. He just gave me the rundown. And this is the person's goal. They want to lose weight, gain muscle, move better, lift heavier weights, whatever. Okay. So basically he told me, okay, work with her. She's real easygoing, and you're going to like her. She's very funny. And that's it. That's all the information he gave to me. And I asked him, is there any other important things I should know? Because I want to make sure I make a good first impression, like injuries, any medical issues. And the owner was like, no, she'll be good. No injuries so far. So, I meet the lady later. Okay? As expected, she's very fun to work with. But during the sessions, we're doing some movements, and I was explaining things to her, and I could tell she got really, really frustrated. And I was really confused because this is a really basic movement. And, I wasn't giving like a super detailed things of like step by step what she do, just like basic cues. So then, she doesn't get overloaded with information. And she got really frustrated, and she's like, you know what, this is really complicated. Can we do something more simple? And, and it's like we regressed it so much. It's like, at the end of the day, it didn't really feel like a workout for her because she was really frustrated. And I was frustrated myself because, I thought I was explaining these things very clearly, very well. And I thought I was getting my point across whenever we're doing these exercises. So come to find out, I reassure, it's your first day, we're getting back of it because we just came back from like a Christmas and New Year's vacation. So I told her, it's just the first week, you're going to get back into it. So I come to find out from my boss that, oh yeah, she has a learning disability. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, geez, you could have told me that, So for her learning disability, it takes her a very long time to comprehend the information and then to, take action to it. So if he had told me that, I would have been more patient. I would have, walked through with her step by step. I would have been more lenient instead of just getting frustrated. Instead of that, what, let's move on to the next one. So, but one of the core things that I've learned from that situation, and we'll talk more about it later, was, I wasn't persistent enough in getting the right information. I was just blaming people, like how I blame my boss. I should have taken ownership. Instead of blaming him, I should have been, man, that's on me because I didn't do my job correctly. I didn't do my job communicating to her that, hey, I noticed you had some troubles with this. Did this happen in the past when you're working with the owner? What can I do to help? And I could have gotten information about her learning disability instead of making her feel frustrated, instead of making her feel less confident in herself. Because if you can't make your client confident about themselves and give them that self-esteem, you sort of feel like you failed as a trainer. So I did a lot of bad mistakes that, like I said, we're going to talk about it. So yeah, that was just a big learning lesson for me, like not assuming that someone's got it, not assuming that I got all the information, and of course, taking ownership and taking initiative to ask that person more questions instead of just relying on the other person or the owner, for more information. So that's completely on me. I was very lazy, and I just assumed that I knew it all, and then that my client, didn't understand. In my head, I was like, these are basic instructions. I don't understand how you're not getting them. So big learning lesson for me. I guess want to flip it back to you, Kenny. Any situation or a time when, you failed at communicating, and then like, what was the result of that? Or what was the consequence of that?
Well, I mean, touching on what you said, just, yeah, never assuming. It's kind of it's pretty dangerous when it comes to like assuming that it's going to be this way. But I guess for me personally, at one of my previous jobs, I worked at a language school, which majority of the coworkers were Japanese. So already there, it was such a language barrier because a lot of the students that went to this language school came from Japan, and my coworkers were Japanese. So they would basically communicate with agents in Japan while I was the only, I guess, fluent English speaker.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So first off, the language barrier was kind of tough for about a good year and all that. And I was a designer / marketing for that language school. And for me to collaborate with my coworkers who work primarily in sales, it was difficult, but at the same time, we really had to collaborate as much as we could.
Right.
I guess one example that really stood out was just a lot of like the design materials that I create for agents back in Japan. Sometimes my coworkers here would tell me to design a certain piece, and then I would show it to them, and they would say, "Oh, it's beautiful." And little did I know like what exactly the agents wanted back in Japan. So they would send over the marketing collateral to Japan and then send it back to Hawaii with all these revisions that needed to be made. And on my part, I would always ask questions on like, oh, what exactly are you guys looking for? Because as a designer, you can design however you want, but if you have no direction, it is very difficult. So at the same time, just the communication between my coworkers and myself was really tough. Because first it was a strict deadline, and on top of that, I was the only one who was experienced in design. And I guess the failure of it was that I just kept on designing and designing and designing when I should have asked more questions and just tried to find ways on how to complete this project, because again, there's deadlines, and at the end of the day, I just learned that, it's better to ask questions, ask more questions as you can before you're stuck just in the same position.
Know the objective, huh?
Yes. And I mean, my coworkers were there to help me, but at the same time, it was just me who was the designer the whole time. So at the end of that experience, it was mostly related to asking more questions, which I should have done. It's a collaborative effort in the end, communication.
Well, going back now that you have the knowledge, if you were to be in that same position, what kind of questions would you ask them?
Well, I know that, I guess, there's different types of design that each culture likes. So that's, as a designer, I guess, Japanese advertisements, let's say Filipino advertisements, American advertisements, they're all different. I think one of my questions would be, yeah, what is the primary, I guess, focus of Japanese advertisements? Like, what is it? The text? Is it the color? Is it the images? Like that. So yeah, to figure out what their primary focus is was key, because then I can kind of know whether or not, oh, should I add more text or should I add more image? So yeah, it was just not just language barrier, but just a sense of cultural differences that really played a toll on this experience. Yeah.
How come they didn't hire like another person that could speak English and Japanese pretty well?
Well, it was at that time, it was just like a budgeting issue. So they wanted to do stuff in-house, and I was the person there that was capable of doing that. And yeah, I just continued that position for a good amount of time, like a couple months. And from there, it taught me a lesson to, yeah, just learn a little bit more about communication with other cultures, especially when it comes to designing. Because, you know, you have clients, or you, like, when it comes to like working out and fitness and all that. So, I mean, that itself, you have just a diverse set of clients that you probably dealt with, and everybody's different. Everybody has different goals, and different communication skills. So that's why we're kind of just like diving a little deeper into all of this, because yeah, communication habits and just our experiences with it really affects, yeah, just our communication in general.
Yeah, just to clarify what you just said about different clients. So for you'll see that through the door. You know? Like I could get a guide that we real hyped up, and my method of communication for him is like, hey, we're gonna hit this hard, throw in some swear words, you know, and you know, like, hey, let's go, and real hype him up. But for, you know, for a mom with like 2 or 3 kids, that's not the right method. I find that I have to ask, oh, how was that? You know, did you feel the right muscle? Do you feel that right there? You know, do you need a break? Okay, grab some water, crack some jokes, ask her more about her kids. Because for one person, all they care about is just getting the workout in and just crushing the workout. They don't have to talk. For another person, I have to make them feel good for coming in order to get repeat visits. Because the only way to get results is to have someone be consistent and have someone keep coming back. And if I make someone feel good about doing the exercise or being under my training or my tutelage, then they're more likely to come back. So you really have to customize the way you talk to people, you know, and just you do that by, you're right, ask them questions like, hey, what's your goal? You know, you want to lose fat, great. You want to increase your squat or your bench by whatever so amount. You want to become a better athlete, great. And like how you said about, if you know what the focus is, you know, for different cultures, then you don't have to spend all that time focusing on like a bigger picture. You can spend all your time focusing on the right thing. You know, because if you bring people a whole bunch of fluff, you know, they're gonna, of course, they're gonna make so much edits, and that wastes time on both sides. Because if you give people a more focused product of what they want, then they're able to define it and clarify it better, and then you can make the focused product even better instead of trying to use that time fixing like a broad general picture.
Yeah, and I guess, yeah, every person you meet, whether it's a client or just anyone, you're gonna have to tailor your communication skills differently with each person that comes about. So in this case, in the professional world, it's, yeah, whether it's working with different clients or your coworkers, it's always different.